Here we are, guys. The very first Mouth of the Tyne live show, live with one of our own, Andy Sixsmith.
I tell you what, mate, the first live show and you get an idiot like me on. What are you playing?
No, Andy, this is what it's all about. We want the top people on this show, and we started off right at the top tonight.
I don't know about that, mate, but I will take any compliments that come my way at the end of a very, very long week. It's a live show. Are you nervous? Are you all right? How's the
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right, man. I'm excited to do it, man. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Yeah. And here we are. Eventually, I always said I would do it when I got to 20,000 followers on Twitter. And I pushed myself these past few weeks to try and get a few subscribers in before we did it. Yeah. And here we are, man. So no, listen, once again, thank you very much for giving me some of your time tonight. And it's very much appreciated, man. I really mean that. Thank you.
It's good you talk about hitting like 20,000 subscribers, etc. But at the end of the day, you couldn't have chosen a better time to do your first live one on a day like today. Because
I know. This is it. This is it, man. But yeah, so let's get straight on with it. What no better place to start than the man of the hour, Alexander Isak.
Oh, you're going to start with Alexander. I thought you were just going to talk about Wolves at the weekend, City last weekend. I didn't realise there was much transfer news going on.
Yeah, just a little. Yeah, man. So, hey, this is like, I don't know how you feel about it. Hopefully, I'll be able to get your thoughts in a minute. But this is the one signing for me that seems to. It really shows our new spending power. I mean, yes, we paid 40 million for Bruno back in January. That was a good deal. But to go up to 60 million, I mean, we're getting into the silly money here. Worth it, but silly money in the Man City PSG region of what they would pay for top players. Yeah. It's quite overwhelming that we're sitting here now to be able to chat about such fortunate things.
As a friend of mine said earlier on today, mate, think back 12 months ago. Where were we? And now today, August 26th or whatever it is, splashing 60 million pounds, 70 million euros, whatever your poison is, on Alexander Isak. I mean, geez, it's chalk and cheese. Obviously, we've talked about the differences between a year ago, 2 years, 5 years ago, and now until the cows come home. But I think, like you say, overwhelming is possibly the word to use to a certain extent. George Culkin used this when the other night in the Tranmere game, and he said you still have to pinch yourself that Kieran Trippier is playing for Newcastle United. And that's the sort of attitude I take with literally everything that's happening with Newcastle at the minute. You have to pinch yourself that Trips is coming onto the pitch at Prenton Park in the League Cup second round. You have to pinch yourself that 60 million's going out on Alexander Isak, that Bruno Guimaraes plays for us. You know, the list goes on and on and on. It's a wonderful, wonderful time to be on Tyneside right now. And it's only going to get better and better.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better, man. It is overwhelming, and it's something that we're probably going to have to get used to.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, the long-term plan, this is just the start of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's just look at how far we've come since January. You know, we've had the 5 lads we brought in January. Obviously, Target was on loan, but we've signed him permanently this summer. Yeah. And then you look at the standard of the players that we've brought in this summer so far. I mean, essentially what people would like to have is England's #1 goalkeeper, Nick Pope. You know, we've brought in Botman, who we've courted for a very long time. Again, I'm sure he'll be capped by the Netherlands very soon. And now we've brought in Alexander Isak. I keep saying Isaac, but I'm going to have to pronounce it correctly.
It's all right. I think, mate, it's taken me 6 months to learn how to pronounce Guimaraes, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
A number of times I had to say it on air in January.
I know, man. I think we're all doing the YouTube translator at some stage, weren't we, for the Portuguese Brazilian twang.
Exactly. We're going to have to get used to that, certainly.
That's it, man.
No, you're right. I mean, I said it earlier on social media. I was saying it to my camera up actually earlier as well when we were at the training ground. And it's amazing to think that yes, 200 million. Eddie said this in his presser this morning. It sounds an awful lot. Of course it does. 200 million is an obscene amount of money, especially given everything that's happening in the news and in the country right now. But we've got to be separate away from that. But when you think that 200 million pounds, or approximately 200 million, has been spent on those types of players, your Kieran Trippiers of the world, your Bruno Guimaraes, your Nick Popes, your Sven Botmans, your Alexander Isaks, you know, and of course, Dan Burn, Matt Target, etc. They are wonderful, wonderful players for us. The money has not been spent like many thought it would be spent back in October 2021. You saw all the headlines that came out. Naturally, they were always going to when a takeover of that magnitude, of that finance, of that level of spending power goes through. Immediately, people's reactions are, well, we're just going to spend 400 million in January and they're going to spend 500 million this summer and they're going to have an entirely new squad. They've gone about it systematically. They've gone about it patiently, and they've gone about it, and I keep using this word, no matter what podcast, no matter how many times I appear on air, they've gone about it professionally.
Yeah.
And that is the word that has changed Newcastle United in the past 10 months or so. They are now a supremely professional organisation. You're a club that caught you too much for the money, and I know there's some backlash on Twitter where fans have believed that Newcastle have maybe gone in a bit stingily and gone in a bit lowball. No, I think that they value the players at a certain amount and go, you know what? We're not going to be held over a barrel. We're not going to be held to ransom. We're going to do this our way, and we're going to stamp our authority on the matter. And they've done that in every single deal they've been in. £40 million for Bruno Guimaraes, a ridiculous deal. And I think in 2 years' time, maybe even less, people will be turning around and going, 60 million for Alexander Isak. Good deal.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just, you know, to touch on what you said there about Bruno, it is, to me, it's still amazing that, you know, a ready-made top club didn't go in for him at the time. I'd never watched him. I'd heard his name mentioned a few times, never really paid much attention because didn't think we'd ever sign a player of that caliber. But when you see him come in and, you know, it is mind-blowing. In my opinion, potential to be our best ever midfielder. Some might say even is already if you're going off talent alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, just it does amaze me that nobody else went for him. And I don't know. I feel like there obviously is some very savvy scouting going on as well with Steve Nixon, and we're looking for these young players that are kind of on the verge of greatness, if you will, but have already achieved a lot so far. Something I've noticed as well, and I'm sure you have too, is the age bracket is very much between the age of 20 and 24. We've not really looked at anyone older than that, obviously Pope being the exception. It does seem like we're building for the future, but I think I mentioned it in a few tweets a few weeks ago. It's not like we're buying youth to play in the reserves and the under 23s. This is youth that's already the caliber of, you know, first team ready.
Of course, and that's exactly what I think Eddie was talking about towards the end of last season when we were talking about the summer transfer window. And it was very much a case of, look, we need to lower the average age of this squad. We need to bring it down. And to be honest with you, not just being able to bring it down, but bring it down, like you rightly point out, with the quality and caliber of player like Sven Botman and Alexander Isak is no mean feat at all. No matter how much money you've got, that is no mean feat to identify those players, to not just say you want them, but also go out and get them. It's two very, very different things. And trust me, mate, if we're going to start talking about Bruno Guimaraes, I'm going to be here until 11 o'clock in the evening and possibly even beyond it, because that man's an absolute superstar.
It is. We'll have to do a special on him maybe one day. We'll get you on.
Do a separate.
Do an hour on Bruno.
The 18 hours long. The 18 hours long, trust me. And I'll just be talking for 17 hours and 59 minutes of it. Trust me. Love the man.
I'm sure we'd get still a lot of views. Viewers would watch that. But yeah,
17 hours and 59 minutes of me, mate. You ain't getting any views for that.
That might be a push. Yeah, man. But yeah, it's just it is overwhelming, and it's actually at the minute. I don't know how you're feeling and how some of our viewers are feeling, but it's overwhelming in the sense that there's such a media overload. Obviously, we choose to go on Twitter. I know you use Twitter, and obviously that's where I've kind of made my name on Twitter. it's the NUFC, fans' choice of social media, isn't it? As it is with a lot of football fans. But yeah,
hashtag NUFC.
Yeah, I know, man. Hours of entertainment.
It is that, certainly. And funnily enough, actually, speaking of entertainment, we've got to drop a name check off for Toon Pools, for Liam from Toon Pools, after what happened.
Oh yeah, man. Let's give him
sat down with Nick this afternoon, and it was a very, very entertaining chat indeed. I think to sit him down and to hear his thoughts about the whole Twitter thing. But I mean, Newcastle United Twitter, we all know it. It's a very interesting, intriguing, and entertaining place to go on sometimes. If you ever need cheered up, all you need to do is to log on to Twitter and find out NUFC Zero Context or Toon Pools, whatever. I could go on and listen. Yeah,
Pools is pretty much the king of Twitter at the minute. I think it's going to be followed closely by the man of the hour, Adam P. Which I might have a little bit of news on, Adam, towards the end of the show, but I'll save that one for to keep the viewers entertained and listening till the end.
What a younger audience than me, mate. Those YouTubers, I can't deal with that sort of thing. I'm very entrenched in my views.
Well, actually, I said very similar comment to him tonight, and he actually corrected me. He showed me his Twitter stats, and what it showed was that actually his audience is actually the majority of it is people 25 to 45, which I thought was quite like intriguing, refreshing. I actually had in my head that his target audience was between 8, maybe it's like 8-year-olds and 18-year-olds, something like that, like that kind of demographic. But my best of luck to him. And
lad's done good. I don't understand why anyone deserves to be knocked down in this world.
No, he's done really well
on their own. So good luck to him.
Yeah, man. But so like I say, well, we've already touched on the big signing, the man of the hour, Isak. But let's
take do first. I mean, what can the lad do? It'd be interesting to see whether it's ground up. What I've found, I don't know if you found this as well, Ben, in the last 48, 72 hours, but certainly since the start of July, when Isak's name was, starting to come back to the surface again. Newcastle have long been interested in him, but the first real approach was made probably early part of the summer. I've noticed that there's two different camps on it. There's a camp where they look at his stats and go, well, he's barely scored. He's barely scored in Spain. He hasn't done that, and his XG is low, and all of this sort of stuff. And then there's the camp that have maybe watched him and thought, 22 years old, he's already gone to 3 different countries, and he's done pretty well in each of them. Now he's come out to Newcastle for the project. He's showing the sort of ambition that, dare I say it, Bruno showed and vocally talked about, didn't he, in his first press conference when he sat there in front of all of us and said, I want to win I want to go to the Champions League and I want to win the Champions League. And we all sat there going, wow, all right. Well, let's survive first, then we'll talk about Champions League. But this kid's showing the ambition too. So I don't know if you've noticed that, but there are those two distinct camps where there's a camp saying, nah, he's got potential, but he's very, very, very raw. And then there's another camp going, look, this lad's really, really talented.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed that or not.
Yeah, I have noticed it, Andy, and I did a bit of research into it as to why the stats dropped for himself last season. And apparently, Sociedad played changed the formation slightly and played more defensive tactics, which he obviously suffered from. The numbers, what we can see on Wikipedia and other stat sites, it show you that the goals are down, but if you watch his performances, still from last season, there was never a drop off in his performances as such. He was still creating chances and still causing havoc. It just didn't quite.
That's the thing for me. You've just hit the nail on the head. This isn't just a striker who puts the ball in the back of the net. This is a striker who creates as well. I know the comparisons will have already been made and will continue to be made. And I'm sure when we speak to him, I'll be asking him about it as well. The number 14 is synonymous in the Premier League with one player, and that is Thierry Henry. And the comparisons are there. And I can see some comparisons in terms of his stature, in terms of the way that he drifts out to the left and in outside to in. His pace, his finishing even is quite reminiscent of Henry's. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Thierry Henry was one of the finest players to grace world football. Alexander Isak has a long way to go to even measure up halfway to Thierry Henry. And I'm sure he's aware of that. But he's not just an atypical predatory 6-yard box striker, this lad. This lad will go and create. This lad will get involved. This lad will work hard from what I've seen of him for Sweden and Sociedad. He'll press. He'll go for recoveries. All of that sort of stuff, which you don't necessarily get in a strike. And that's why I said it the other night on another podcast. This lad is almost the perfect profile for Eddie Howe. Yeah. The perfect profile. And he's better in a possession-based team. And like you rightly point out, Sociedad last year changed the formation, changed the shape. They went to a lot more of a defensive counter-attacking sort of style. And he suffered as a result, as a 21-year-old will do, because a 21-year-old is still learning. And he'll learn in the Premier League, of course he will. But our sort of style of play will suit him a lot more, I think. Not that I'm an expert on tactics or anything like that. Go to someone like Chris Watt for that. Man's an absolute genius. But, you know, when it comes down to that sort of thing, Isak will thrive much more in a possession-based outfit like Newcastle than in a counter-attacking outfit like Sociedad.
Yeah, totally agree. I couldn't have put that any better. And what I really like about him is he's a bit like, kind of, I refer to Joelinton as a hybrid type of player. You can't pigeonhole him into one position or one style. I think Isak's very much a hybrid in the sense that he's 6'4", and you assume that every 6'4" forward is a target man. Now he's not in the sense that he probably can hold the ball up, but he's got that element of a trick in him. If you watch his highlight reel, he loves a nutmeg. He likes to get, you know, very much.
Defenders are all absolutely bricking themselves at the training ground, aren't they? They've got Maxi, and now Alexander Isak, the likes of Fabian Schär, Dan Burns, Sven Botman, especially Dan, poor Dan. Yeah, he's got 8 foot up in the air. He's got these two nutmeg kings going. I know, that's it, man. That's it.
Yeah. It's going to be great to see them in full flight in the Premier League, and I'm sure some of the defenses will be. They'll be bricking it themselves, but he just looks like such a unique player. You know, he's got the ability to drift wide and then, you know, perform a trick, and before you know it, he's past the man and he's in the box, and this is where the magic happens. He can either shoot. I think he's both footed. He seems to prefer his right, but he can shoot with his left. Right. Or does he assist, as you know, and do we use him like that? And this is the joy that we're going to have. I can't wait to see him in action.
Yeah, he's what to nick the Athletic, and I usually do because the Athletic's an excellent read. But to nick what they said about Alexander Isak, they called him a unicorn. And you know what? As ever, they hit the nail right on the head in the sense that he is part of this new generation of striker, like a Haaland, like an Mbappe. They're tall, slender, but powerful, pacey. They work their asses off. Their goal records are pretty damn decent in the case of Haaland, just out of the stratosphere. But you've got all of those attributes. This is the new generation of striker now. Yes. And we, unbelievably, as Newcastle United, seem to have landed our paws on one of those, one of the highest caliber of new generation strikers. So, it's an incredible feat that we've managed to get a hold of him, but also really intrigued just to see how he will adapt in the Premier League, because we talk about the comparisons to Henry. Let's not forget when he joined Arsenal, a good long while ago now, it took him quite a while to adapt. Wenger was converting him from a winger into a forward, into a striker. But at the same time, he took a long time. So I'm sure our fans will not, be jumping on the back of a £60 million striker if he doesn't go, 3-4 games without a goal. I imagine he will quickly be on the score sheet with the amount of creativity that now you see with Newcastle. Maxi, when he's on form, Bruno, Joelinton just behind, even Miggy to a certain extent, Matty Target, Kieran Trippier's set pieces. Lots of threat there in that Newcastle team. I don't think he'll go that too long without a goal, but if he does, he's 22, he's young, he's adapting, he's got a lot to learn under Eddie and in this unit and in this team. So it's just a case, like I'm sure 99.9% of Newcastle fans will do, because that's what we do better than anyone. We support our players. We'll have to be there for him if necessary. But the kid, without trying to put too many superlatives on it, I think he's going to be a bit of a superstar. Yeah,
I totally agree. I can't wait to see him in action. And I think we'll be talking about him for many moons to come.
Hopefully, mate. Hopefully. I don't know if it'll be Wolves this weekend. I just wonder on that. I think there's not a lot of clarity over whether there's just been a little bit of international clearance that might have delayed it for Wolves. But to be honest, you sign on a Friday. Are we going to chuck him straight in on the Sunday at Wolves at Molineux?
No, probably not.
I mean, we haven't done it with Sven. We didn't do it with Bruno. Eddie is renowned now for not chucking these. You know, he might if he's able to.
He likes that slow integration, does Howe, doesn't he? You know, he likes to see what he's got and introduce them slowly but surely. You're probably right, but who knows?
Who's going to argue against Eddie? Who the heck is going to argue against Eddie Howe? If he points someone out who's going to argue against Eddie Howe, I call them an idiot right now.
Yeah. Me too. So right, we'll move on. We've talked about Boy Wonder there. He's going to be amazing, I'm sure. Where do you think we stand with regards to are we finished in the transfer market now? Obviously, I'm not asking you for in the know stuff. Just your general opinion, Andy.
I was going to say, mate, honest to God, like I am as far from in the know.
Backing up the wrong foot.
I said this the other night as well. It's in the world of in the knows. I am certainly not listed underneath them. I report what I see, what I hear, and what I perceive, and that is as good as it gets. And maybe hear a couple of snippets of information left, right, and centre. But
and that's all we want, mate. I'm just interested to see how you think that the squad's shaping up, and if we will. You know, do you think we might still be active after Isak? Do you think we might?
I think I've long thought this, and I think a lot of Newcastle, reporters or North East reporters or any national reporters will have thought it as well. I think that Newcastle is still waiting to see how things develop with Chelsea. You know, this Anthony Gordon deal or no deal, which might not happen yet, who knows? But if Anthony Gordon goes to Chelsea, there's a heck of a lot of dominoes to fall as a result of that. Yes. And I just wonder whether, obviously, Hudson-Odoi's gone off to Leverkusen. Broja obviously isn't going to, I would be shocked if that happened now, considering we've just gone out and splashed 60 million on Isak. But your Gallagher and your Pulisic, I would be very, very intrigued if they made a play for Christian Pulisic. I think that would be a heck of a signing. Yeah. Conor Gallagher, I would be surprised at, just because I feel like Chelsea want to keep a hold of him, especially with the new 5 subs rule coming in. I'm not ruling it out. I'd be surprised if they were to let him go. I know Newcastle are interested in him. Certainly, who wouldn't be? He's a very, very good player. But I don't think Newcastle had done. From what I looked at and heard from Eddie this morning, he's obviously going to be into discussions with the ownership again over the next few days, like he was probably straight away after the City game, hence the Isak deal going through very, very quickly. But I think he has his eye on at least one more. I think he will want one more. And whether that is a midfielder or more of a winger type, I'm not entirely sure, but I think he will want a midfielder in. I think he's worried about how long John Joe's going to be out for in terms of 3 to 4 months. I think, obviously, you're not going to rush John Joe straight back after that. The World Cup will be a bit of a godsend because it'll buy him an extra month. But I think Eddie is going to be playing in terms of cautiousness and say, look, I would have probably wanted a midfielder at some point anyway. That might just have to be brought forward a little bit. If it's a loan deal like a Conor Gallagher, brilliant. It's a fantastic stopgap and you get no wonderful talent from Chelsea. If it has to, I'd be shocked if it went and splashed out another 40 million. Absolutely shocked.
I would too. I'm kind of the camp that the big money's probably been spent now. And we'll be looking to utilise the loan system. And I'm glad you touched on Gallagher because he'd be high on my list too. I think the Shelvey injury, we haven't heard much about Eddie specifically wanting, a central midfielder, whether that be an attacking midfielder or a defensive midfielder. We haven't actually heard anything from him regarding that. But the thing is, if we play Bruno in this deep-lying defensive midfield position, we do lose some, not all of it, but some of the attacking quality. I mentioned it a few weeks back when the Shelvey injury first happened. That's fine, Bruno playing there, but you're going to have these through balls, which would be, going into the box. You're moving them 20 to 30 yards further back, like up the pitch. And it will have an effect. It will make them slightly less effective. So I've talked to a few of the guys, and I'm sure we'll see in the coming days if we bring in an attacking midfielder and continue to play Bruno there, or maybe we could bring in a defensive midfielder and free Bruno up as the attacking midfielder.
It's that debate, though, isn't it? It's Bruno is a victim of his own talent. Yes. Bruno is a victim of his own flexibility and his own ability to play several different positions. And it will be that debate that dominates this season. Is Bruno better as a 6 or as an 8? Personally, everyone will have their own subjective opinions on this. Of course they will. My own personal opinion is Bruno is better as an 8. I think the next 2 big signings that Newcastle will make / should make are a winger and a defensive midfielder. I genuinely think a defensive midfielder will be quite high on the list. Not necessarily in January, but certainly next summer, I think, that they'll be having a look at. And it just allows, like you've rightly said there, Ben, just allows Bruno that extra bit of freedom. We saw how good he was. I mean, Forest were terrible. But Bruno against Forest, how many times did he slide that ball down the inside right channel for Almiron? I mean, that's how good he is in the great position. Plus, and there is the other thing that we kind of take into consideration here, and this is where all of his talents combine. Bruno is a ball winner. He's a little terrier. And when you've got a player in the number 8 position who can win the ball back as well as he can create moving forward, that is a very, very, impressive skill to have and a real good asset to have in your team. So,
I noticed the other day against Manchester City, he's a different type of defensive midfielder. As you said, Andy, he's very much a terrier. He's not going to just sit deep and wait for the ball to come to him. Like someone like Bissouma might just sit in there and kind of act as a brick wall shield. He will actively hurry and hassle around the midfield until he wins the ball back, and that's his defensive attribute. So I know what you're saying. It's catch-22. Do we keep him there or do we move him?
And you think of that, and you think, let's say hypothetically, Newcastle were to. I've seen Edson Alvarez being linked to, from bits I've seen him for Ajax. He is that kind of brick wall, that warrior defensive midfielder who's going to sit in front of the back 4, shield. They'll have the likes of Bruno and Joelinton to go nuts. Can you imagine just how effective Bruno would be with that insurance behind, but still be able to press from the front like Eddie wants all of his teams to do? And you've suddenly got a midfield there of another strong defensive midfielder. Bruno, Joelinton. It's got mobility, it's got technical ability, it's got skill, it's got power, it's got pace, it's got structure. I don't think there's too many better 3s, depending on whoever they do end up bringing in as a defensive midfielder. There's not many better midfield 3s than that would be in outside probably Manchester City and Liverpool. I would argue.
I totally agree. We're getting into that kind of that kind of quality now, where the pieces are coming together, and you can see this kind of makeup of it. And you're looking at. I tell you where it really struck me the other night, and I don't know if they've got a few injuries, but I was watching Liverpool, and I was looking at their central midfield of like Henderson and Milner. And you've got Naby Keita, who's always injured, and it's just, I was thinking our midfield's better than that. Like that's actually where we at now. Like, with Bruno being so good, the resurgence, the renaissance of Joelinton.
That's an entirely different podcast in itself. I mean, I'm so delighted for that lad. It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah, man. He's again.
You're right. I mean, you look at Liverpool, and I mean, fair play to them. They do have injuries. Thiago's out. Fabinho was nursing something as well. As soon as you bring Fabinho and Thiago back into that alongside Henderson, it's an entirely different matter. But I would still argue that our midfield would stand up against that. I mean, we've talked about Bruno and how good, but Joelinton is just. I mean. That bloke, I thought he was tremendous against City. I know all the plaudits went towards Maxi and maybe Bruno as well, and Trips had a fantastic game, and Callum did too. But, you look at that and you think, Joelinton bossed that midfield at times. There were numerous times he just got away down the left, and he would just power people out of the way. He would get involved. He's turned, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, which is a weird thing to say considering what I'm about to say. He's turned into a right nasty midfielder to play, like a Vieira type. Not as I'm not likening him to Patrick Vieira in terms of talent or ability or
attitude. His attitude is very much Vieira-esque, isn't it?
He loves a square up. We all know Joelinton loves a square up, but he's nasty with it. He knows when to get at players. He knows when to square up. He knows when to disrupt a game, and that is absolutely and utterly. Necessary in a midfield like Newcastle. And it's great for the fans because as well as I do what St James's Park is like when it is absolutely feverish, absolutely hostile. And all it takes is for something like a square up, even if we're 1-0, 2-0 down. I think there was a moment we were 1-0 down and they'd missed not missed. Nick Pope had saved a couple of chances, and I think there was just an altercation or a slight altercation in midfield. Joelinton was involved, and all of a sudden the crowd had just been a bit quieter. All of a sudden, bang! 52,000 are suddenly going, right, let's get into this lot again, and the tide changed after that. And we battered them for 60 minutes.
He's definitely a player that thrives on that type of situation, I think, isn't it? When the tackles come in and the crowds get riled, it's in that bear pit atmosphere, and that's exactly what St. James's is at the minute. So I think we're going to feed off him, and he's going to feed off us, and it's going to be a match made in heaven for the foreseeable future.
And that midfield will look good. But going back to what we were originally talking about, I think, like you rightly say, I don't think there's going to be a major outlay now. I think that's a lot of the money finished and done with. We'll put lock and key on it. We might come back to it in January, depending on injuries, depending on suspensions, whatever the case may be. It might be fluid, or it might very well be a case of, listen, hang on to it until next summer. We've got a pretty decent squad now. Sure. Could we do with maybe one more winger? Yeah, possibly. Could we do with a defensive midfielder? Yeah, probably. But they're not pressing. The pressing matter was a striker/winger who would chip in with the goals. And Isak pretty much has that one straight away. João Pedro, I think it's been well documented by now, hasn't it, that we've most certainly cooled off there. I think Watford were playing a few silly buggers from what I was told. We're changing the goalposts a little bit, and it was what I was saying before. Newcastle now don't go in for that. If they soon realise goalposts are being changed, it's gone and move on to the next target. And I think they've done the right thing with it.
Yeah, the Pedro one was a strange one, wasn't it? I'd heard on the grapevine that there was a medical. We assumed his medical booked in for Thursday, and as it happens, it was Isak. So I think because it came out of the blue, everybody just assumed it was going to be Pedro was going to be the one. And obviously, I love a deal like this where it just comes out the blue. And I'd heard a few rumors, and I tweeted about it. I don't know if you saw it, but I'd heard a few rumors. Someone sent me a couple of weeks back saying, I think it was on August the 17th, that Isak was very much still on the list. And I don't think, I put it out there, and I don't think many people actually believed it. I know I probably didn't believe it myself. But hey, I was damn sure I found that tweet fast enough yesterday.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Hey, when I win one, I've got to milk it, mate.
Wins are rare enough in this world.
That's it, man. I don't get everything right. Some might say I don't get a lot right, but when I do, you'll hear about it.
There's just a humility there, pal. That's all you need.
It's all in good faith. I only ever, put out, info that I believe is correct. And as we've heard a few people say, football's a very fluid business, and things can change. I think the Pedro deal was literally nailed on to go ahead. I mean, we even had the famous "Here we go." So if you've got that and you've still got it wrong, I think something's gone seriously wrong there down the line.
Yeah, I did tweet about that because, I mean, like I said before, not in the know at all, but I hadn't heard that Pedro, a deal had been done with Watford. So I was it Monday night, wasn't it? I was very, very surprised to see Romano go with that. And that's why I kind of said, I can't remember exactly what I said on the Twitter, but it's going to be an interesting few days because, I hadn't heard that had been done. And I don't think many of the reporters had heard that it had been done. So I'm not sure where that came from. I think maybe it was fed information. He was very, very close to the Pozzo family. And he's well documented to be a Watford fan, isn't he, as well? But
I mean, I like
it wrong.
People do. I like the guy. Just one thing I will say, I've always found it very difficult to kind of believe that one man could have so many contacts with literally every football agent and every football player in Europe. To me, that's absolutely astonishing. Considering his rise was relatively unknown a few years ago, to be literally the first man to know every deal. Like, I don't know. I think that's.
But I think Newcastle United have proven that statement wrong.
Yeah, man. Destroying careers as well as making them.
I have to say, was it Keith who absolutely bodied him with a "Here we go"? And Newcastle. I mean, maybe it was coincidence, but it's a massive coincidence if they decided to put "Here We Go" on the Isak announcement. Was it the video that they put out?
Oh, yes. Very interesting.
Here we go. I was like,
I didn't pick up on that. A little play on words there for the old jump the gun that Fabrizio did. Yeah, interesting.
But hell, look, at the end of the day, mate, anyone who's in this business, whether they're a fan, whether they're a broadcaster, a reporter, a journalist, and in the know, whoever they are, look, people get things wrong every now and again. And I think there's just this culture at the minute, especially with Twitter, as great as Twitter can be, that A, you have to be fastest, and B, you always have to be right. Look, people make mistakes, all right? And people will continue to make mistakes. So don't chew anyone out about it. It's fine. All right. He got it wrong. I'm sure one day he might, maybe not, who knows, might hold his hands up to it and say I was completely wrong. But look, he gets quite a bit right from what I can make out on Twitter.
He does. No, he does. I know we're on a bit of a time constraint tonight, so I'll just...
We've got 10 minutes, mate. It's quarter to.
All right, he's having a good time. We've squeezed another 10 minutes out of him.
It's only because I got absolutely battered if I'm not.
No, it's fine. Listen, it's an honour to have you on, and any time you can give me, mate, is much appreciated. I really mean that.
Anytime I talk Newcastle United and my love for Bruno Guimaraes.
That's it, man. That's it, man. No, it is nice to have an established reporter and broadcaster on like yourself. And considering I've only had the channel open and running for 10 days, for you to agree to that, it means a lot, So thank you.
Hell, mate, you've done a good job with it so far. Long may it continue.
Thank you, mate. Just one just wanted to get your opinion on your thoughts on how long this process might take before we see some results. Now, results as in maybe a top 4 finish, maybe get to a semi-final of the FA Cup, or maybe win the Premier League.
You accelerated that. Semi-final of the FA Cup.
Hey, that's the trajectory, though, Andy, where we're heading at the minute. Things are accelerating. We are getting carried away.
Look, you look at it. Where were we back in even December, November, December time? And I mean, where we are now was absolutely a million miles away. So, sure, semi-finals of a cup. I'd like to think this season. I genuinely think there's a cup run in Newcastle this season. I just feel it in my bones. I've been wrong a lot of times before. Touch wood, I'm not wrong here. But, I just feel there's a cup run in us. Top 4 this season? Can't see it. Can't see a top 4. Not this season. Top 6? I'm very intrigued. It's so early on in the season. And there's a long way to go. We're, 3 games in? The likes of West Ham are struggling at the moment in terms of domestically. I think, they're in Europe. They'll go quite well in Europe, I imagine. It'd be interesting to see how well they balance that. They did quite a good job with it last season. Leicester, well, there's a lot of problems with Leicester. Sadly, I like Leicester as a club as well, but there's a lot of problems for them to sort out. Then you look elsewhere. Arsenal, they look good this season. Arteta's got them completely, a different animal almost. The mentality is just switched with them. I think Arsenal will finish top 4. Tottenham, I think maybe might just 5th or 4th, somewhere around there. So you're looking now Newcastle to finish anywhere in the top 7, anywhere in the European places, I think will be an absolutely cracking season for us. And if you're going to put me on the spot and say, can you see that happening? I can. I think Newcastle could well finish 7th this season. I think anywhere in the top 10, I'd be happy with and content with, as should many Newcastle United fans. But with the spine of that team now, as long as they get lucky with injuries to an extent, as long as key players stay fit, I think 7th isn't out of the realms of possibility for Newcastle this season, if they maintain the sort of form that we've started off the season with. So certainly that's this season. Next season, I would like to see them win a trophy or make a final and challenge for top 6 to top 4. I think that's in the 2nd season. 3rd season, I would like to see them win a trophy and make top 4 into the Champions League. And I know that might sound a bit slow and a bit ponderous, but we have to take into consideration Manchester City, and I know they've had an awful start, but Manchester City and Liverpool are out of the side. They're the 2 best teams in the league by a country mile, even with Liverpool's struggles at the minute. City are one of the best teams in the world. But we saw what we could do with them. They're out of sight. Arsenal are regenerating a little bit. Tottenham are obviously under a new era under Conte. I think I would like to see Newcastle battling Arsenal and Tottenham within the next 2 seasons, and Chelsea as well, for that top 4 position in Champions League. And I think if we can do that within the next 2 to 3 seasons, that would be very, very good indeed in terms of progress. Premier League title, give it 4 or 5 years, I would have said. 4 or 5 years. And I'm sure it will happen. Is that in the short term? Is 4 or 5 years in the short term?
I think the challenge for it,
actually 10 years, isn't it? Well,
no. I definitely think the challenge for it, you can see the way the squad's gone after 2 windows. It's not going to be rocket science to think that in, like you say, 4 or 5 years, we could be challenging. Like, no one's going to say we're going to win anything for sure, because obviously you've still got to fight for it. You've still got that element of luck, and you've touched on there. The other teams aren't just going to disappear. We've still got to, barge our way into this mix of established top 4 sides. But with a little bit of luck and obviously a lot of money.
A few good signings, a few good signings.
It's we're going to do it. And I've always had this kind of outlook on people say, oh, you'll never get the success in that. And, I was, I think when I look back to Chelsea, I think I was like 16 years old. I just left school when they got the money. And I watched them, grow rapidly with this money and win things. And then we had Man City do the same a few years later, and then after that we had PSG, that did the same again. And what that has proved to me and you and everyone else is that money does bring success. If it's spent in vast amounts, it will bring success. Whether it's over 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, or 10 years, it's pretty much scientifically proven in the 3 biggest teams that have the most money in club football in the world. They've all won loads of silverware.
And it's not even just the money spent on the players as well. And this is where I'm going to move on to my second topic that I will always talk at huge length about, and that is Eddie Howe. I think he has absolutely astounded people to an extent, because when he was appointed, I think a lot of people use this phrase, he's a phase 1 manager. He's not a phase 2. He's not a phase 3. I heard someone use it on Sky Sports the other day, actually. And it's fine. You set it up. I'm pretty sure I used phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 after the takeover went through, because that's how you segregate things. You move through your phase. You consolidate in the Premier League, phase 1. Phase 2, you go for Europe. Phase 3, Champions League, Premier League title, maybe. And we move on from there. I think a lot of people have maybe changed their opinion on what phase manager Eddie Howe is. He is a phase 1 manager because he's obviously worked wonders with us so far. But I think he's into phase 2, phase 3 territory with the job that he has done. I know amongst Newcastle United fans, and to a certain extent within the wider media, he's starting to get the attention and starting to get the praise he's deserved. But wholeheartedly, that man has worked a miracle at Newcastle United. And I know the argument will come in, but he's spent nearly 200 million. He's had the backing of the owners straight away. He's had it easy. Has he had it easy? I mean, they're bottom of the blooming Premier League, and they finished just outside the top 10.
Yeah,
on the final
totally. Everything what you said there, I totally agree with. And I think what Howe's got, he's got the skill set. Basically, he's got every tool in his locker that you'd possibly need. He's humble. He conducts himself in a positive manner. He never grumbles or complains. He's never deflecting, away from himself if he has negativity. Although really, it's been nothing negative that anybody could say about him so far, because the results have been tip top.
He's the perfect conduit between fans and club, city and club, and we both know. Having been involved with this club, whether it be a personal or a professional level, from my own perspective, we all know what Newcastle United can be when the city and the club connect. And Eddie Howe, if anyone was to ask me what has he done best in his time, I would say that straight away. He has literally united the city and the club once again, because he is such a genuinely decent, intelligent, but also just, what's the best word to describe? Normal. He's just a normal bloke. And, you see that. And I think that's why the fans get on board with him, because they know he's just almost like us in that way. And he is. And the players are to a certain extent. And that's why he's bringing the types of players that he is in as well. What that man has done for Newcastle United so far has been nothing short of a miracle. And what he will do with Newcastle United will be very, very impressive. I'm absolutely certain of it. And I really hope, not just on a professional level, but a personal level, having gotten to know the man away from the camera a little bit more to a certain extent, you know, I really hope he's the man to lead Newcastle to trophies, to Champions Leagues, and potentially to go and win Premier Leagues as well, because I can't imagine too many other people that would deserve it more after the experience I've had with him from a personal and from a professional level so far. Yeah. The man's a genius, and hopefully the man is going to become a Newcastle United legend in years to come. Not obviously overnight, certainly, not just for saving from relegation, but in years to come. I think, and I hope that he could well go down in history at Newcastle United.
Wow. I honestly couldn't have put that any better, mate.
That's because I looked at the time, mate. I knew I need to end on a high note. So.
Yeah, we have. That's Andy. That's perfect. That's a great note to leave it on. I couldn't agree with you anymore. How is the man for us? He's got that football intelligence as well as the likability, and I've got no doubt in my mind that he's going to be the first manager since the 1950s or 60s. You know, it's been that long since we won anything. But I'm forgetting myself. You know, it's been that long since we
won. Before our time.
Yeah, just a bit. But I think he'll be the one. I think Eddie Howe's going to be the one to bring us silverware, and who knows, he might even have a statue outside St James's one day, mate. Who knows?
I hope so. It's a fair few years away yet, but I'm still with him getting Newcastle United a trophy. That would be splendid for now, and then just build on it and hopefully just bring success. But to kind of underline everything, you know, this is the thing that many people look at Newcastle United and think, well, they'll just kick off if they don't win a trophy. That's not what Newcastle United fans are about. If Newcastle United fans see a team like they were on Sunday against the champions and arguably one of the best teams in world football right now, and see the manner that they attacked them, that they battered them, that they were committed, and that they were at one with the crowd and with the city, that is what Newcastle United fans want. And at the moment, that is what Newcastle United fans have got from the players, from Eddie Howe, and from everyone involved with the club.
Very true. Just one final line before we end it. I always say this as well, you know, when I talk about football, you know, it's down the pub or you know, just like people you meet. I always think you need two things for a football club to be successful, and that's hope and ambition. And we were starved of those in the Mike Ashley era for so many years. We had no hope and we had no ambition. You've got to have the ambition from the owner, and then that gives you the hope on the pitch that you might win something. Whether it's getting, you know, even if you're in League Two, you still have to have hope that you might get into League One. You know, the two go hand in hand, and we were starved of both of them for so many years, and that's why, you know, it's one of the reasons I've started this channel up. I've got the buzz back. You know, you've got the buzz back in your presenting, your reporting. We've got the glint in our eye and the fire in our bellies.
Mate, you make a great point. You see that in the press conferences now. You see that, you know, amongst the players, that they all have smiles. Oh, obviously they're doing very, very well at the minute. I'll be intrigued to see when, because there'll be a moment or a sequence of games where, you know, the results don't go our way. You know, the players aren't playing as well as they possibly might be able to. All of that sort of stuff, it's just natural. It's just normal. It's development. It's progression. It's how teams and clubs advance. And it'll be just interesting to see how they deal with it. But for now, as it stands, you know, you see the difference in the fans. You see the difference in the media, and you see the difference in the players. And I think that's all we can ask for right now. And, you know, obviously with the news from today, you know, you go and splash 60 million on a striker. You're not going to meet a Newcastle fan who's going to be gutted about that news, are you? At the same time, we're just happy to be a part of, like you say, a team and a club that's hopeful, that's ambitious, and that just wants to actually provide the fans and provide the city with a little bit of joy. That's exactly what they're doing right now.
We finally got our club back, Andy. Didn't we?
I was waiting for that. It's taken you 49 minutes and 4 seconds to bring that in, but you've done well to get that in. Congratulations.
Right, Andy. Thank you very much. Amazing. Just want to say thank you once again for being the first live guest I've ever had on the show. And
it can only get better from here. It gets better.
This is we've set the bar tonight, Andy. We've set the bar. I'd love to have you back in the future, you know, maybe in a few weeks or months or whatever. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
Privilege and a pleasure. And obviously, you can invite me back when all of my predictions go wrong.
Yeah, that's it, man. Right, listen, thank you so much. I'll let you go now and I'll say goodbye to the guys. Enjoy your night and thank you so much, mate.
Will do, mate. All right. Best of luck with the channel, and well done with everything so far. And here's hope for 3 points at Bologna.
Yeah, man. Let's do it. Right. Thanks very much, Andy. Thank you.
Worries, see you later.
Bye-bye. Well, guys, that's it. First live show with Andy Sixsmith, Mouth of the Tyne, live with Andy Sixsmith. And I really hope you enjoyed that. I did. It was very new to me. This is going to be something that's, I'm going to try and do a lot more of, but we're going to have guests on. But what I really want to hear from is you guys. We're going to try and get some live shows, where there's 4 or 5 of us talking after a game, particularly after a game. I want to get your thoughts straight afterwards. It's going to be different people every week. I don't want the same panel. I want to freshen it up. I want to, get different people on, people that interact with the Mouth of the Tyne account on Twitter and just, I want to delve deep into the fan base and just see, that raw emotion after a game. And I think this could be a really good place to vent our spleens after a match, whether it's a good or bad result. So I'll leave it there, guys. Just want to say thank you once again for tuning in. Like and subscribe after I put the video on YouTube. And if you want more content like this, just keep watching, keep getting the views up. And we're trying to create something here. The Mouth of the Tyne ethos is based around fans. It's not about me. It's about you guys, the interaction. What we do on Twitter every day. I like to retweet you guys. I like to, help accounts out that are new and up and coming. And that's what I want this channel to be about. I don't want it to be the same stale format week in, week out. Let's freshen it up. Let's get different faces on, football people that are knowledgeable and want to talk about the game and the ins and the outs of matches. And, let's do this. Let's make it something special. So thanks very much for your time tonight, guys. And I'll put the video on as soon as we've ended the broadcast. I'll see you very soon. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Take care, guys. Ben from Mouth of the Tyne, and I'll see you very shortly. Cheers.